Welcome to The Founder's Mind. This is your host, Adam Muchler. On today's episode, I have Gira, founder of Aleberry Creative. You'll hear how Gira dove headfirst into the entrepreneurial world. Through Aleberry, Gira has helped her clients raise over $200 million in funding. She works alongside startups, advisors, venture capitalists, and accelerators for demo days, pitch sessions, and investor meetings. To say Gira has picked up a couple insights here and there wouldn't even tell a fraction of her story. Be sure to listen in and learn some of the awesome nuggets of wisdom Gira has acquired over the years. So I have Gira here on The Founder's Mind. Welcome, Gira. I'm super excited to have you.
Thanks for having me.
I'd like to start with a couple questions just to get an idea. You and I have had some conversations and we know each other a little bit, but hopefully we can help listeners get to know you. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what you're working on at the moment. I know you've got some creative projects, you've got a company, you've got all sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the founder of Aleberry Creative, and we help tech companies fundraise. So most of our clients are raising seed through Series B capital. And right now, I unfortunately cannot always talk about the details of my work, which also makes our website very slim pickings. But yeah, we're working on some cool clients right now. We've got everything from appliances to wearable tech to solar roofing. We really like to work with companies that actually make an impact. So those are definitely our favorite ones. Yeah, it's kind of what we're doing. We're doing some deck work, some due diligence work, investor relations, getting them money.
So a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
What would you say? I mean, you go to the website, you said slim pickings. What would you say sort of the core of the work that you're doing is? Is it consulting? Is it design? Is it everything?
It's everything, but we start with consulting and strategy prior to diving into the actual design work because content, I always say content is queen instead of king.
I like that a lot.
Thank you.
I love that actually.
Put that on our website.
Yeah, that's great.
So I always say content is queen. And content and strategy have to come first. You've got to figure out what your business model is. You've got to figure out why you're asking for the amount of money you're asking before you actually get into the actual design work. Design plays a bigger role in how it works, especially when we work with deeper technologies like medtech, biotech, energy, things like that. How it works really has to explain to people who don't have the PhD that you have.
Right.
You know? So that's really when design comes in handy. I mean, obviously aesthetics matter. You want the investor to quickly be able to scan your deck and know what you're doing. But yeah, strategy and content first.
Cool. How did you get started?
So
I mean, like, where did it come from?
So Will and I, the other co-founder, we started right out of college. Didn't know what we were doing. We're 21 years old. We fell into the tech world by accident. So that was interesting. It wasn't something that was in my mind. We were just we graduated with ad degrees. We didn't want to join a corporate advertising agency because we wanted to dive straight into the creative work. And we knew if we joined an ad agency, we'd probably be, the bottom feeders. And we just didn't want to do that. So we were like, let's test this out for a few years, see if it works. If it works, great. If not, we'll go to the corporate thing. But yeah, it worked out. We started out doing kind of like law firms, local restaurants, just to build up our portfolio since everything was schoolwork. And then when we moved our company to Houston around 2010, the tech world was just getting started there, and a bunch of the kind of key players in the network liked us, took us under their wing, and were like, hey, we're invested in so-and-so companies. Can you just come work with our portfolio? They hooked us up with an awesome accelerator that became nationally ranked. And through that network, we started working with corporate venture programs. But what the thing was we found ourselves sitting in on all these meetings with the investors who were involved. So we found ourselves listening to advice on like what they want to see on the decks. And it was everything from their demo day to their actual investor materials. And a year or so after, we found ourselves giving out free advice. So we were just doing design work.
Yeah.
And then we were like, wait, our company just went and raised $5 million based off the advice we were giving them. We should definitely look into this a little bit more. And we figured out that the tech world and fundraising was our key differentiator from most design firms. And now we've really split our company into consulting and design. So the consulting side comes in when a company doesn't have enough money to hire someone to do investor relations, or they're new to the process. We get a lot of, former doctors, engineers and stuff, and they've never done the tech world.
Yeah.
So they need us to just lay out a fundraising roadmap, tell them what to do, what to say, and, secure the funding. Our biggest thing is we have traction right now. So our companies have raised almost $200 million. Yeah, pretty wicked. So now we're just looking at restructuring our company a little bit to kind of dive more into consulting with design, still being a definite thing, but we just want it to be, we want the content and the fundraising to really come first, and that's really where our key value is, because you can get a designer in-house, that's easy, but we know what East versus West Coast investors look for.
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff that we know, and we partner with a ton of accelerators and venture capitalists, so we get to sit in on some cool meetings.
Yeah, so literally when people say, I wish I was a fly on the wall for X, you guys have been flies on the wall for a lot of conversations that have kind of enriched your knowledge.
Totally. And I think being young really helped, because they were like, we like you guys, we want to help you, like, can you just, and then they wanted us to sit in on the meetings, and we didn't mind, because we wanted to take notes on what they wanted to see on the deck work and like on the website and things. And that really, we just got such great insight. And then, we still grab lunch and beers and stuff with the investors we work with, and we like to see what they're doing. We always keep up with the latest trends, like what's cool right now. San Francisco is super into SaaS and AI and VR, and the East Coast is really into hardware, which is awesome.
Yeah, I
really like working with actual products. I know my co-founder is like obsessed with physical products, because we have to work on software so much. So when you get to work with something that's like in your hands, it's awesome.
There's a really interesting, and correct me if I'm hearing this wrong, but it sounds like you spent time, and you might still spend time just learning. Like, being in those conversations, you're learning. It's not like you're getting paid to be in the conversation all the time.
Right.
But they're learning opportunities.
Absolutely. And I mean, the tech world is changing all the time. So we keep up with the trends. I read all the VC articles out there. I mean, we like to keep up with what's actually happening, because trends shift, and certain VCs look for certain things. Like, we have one partner that prefers investing in founders. Like, if they really believe in the team and there's an IP there, they'll invest in them. But then we have some VCs that really focus on scalability and what their key differentiators are in the competitive landscape. And so there's these little nuances that we keep up with, and that's kind of why we feel our value is awesome for that.
So you can go in and say, hey, what you're saying is your team is the sort of gold mine here, not the product necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely.
So these are the types of VCs you should talk to. Or like, hey, you have a killer product and your team is okay to good. These are the VCs that will look at you and say, we want your product.
Totally.
And we want to put money there.
I mean, I always tell clients, even if they don't sign with us, I'm always just like, your pitch deck is your resume.
Yeah.
You can't just send the same thing out to everyone. And so we have what we call conditional iterations, and that's usually that tail end of our process.
Yeah.
Where once we start due diligence and we not only use our network, but the general network that's out there, we connect you with VCs that we feel are the right fit. But it has to be a cultural fit. They have to be interested in the vertical you're looking for. I mean, there's a lot of little nuances that you have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you first graduate college, everyone just sends their resume out to everyone. But then a lot of people are super unhappy because the culture fit's not there. It's not really what they want to do. And you're getting into a marriage. When you take money, you're giving out equity, and that's a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
So, got to do it right.
Do it right. Do the due diligence.
Yeah.
Earlier, you mentioned, going right from college and going out on your own and saying, if it doesn't work, we can always go back to an ad agency or go to a big company. What was the tipping point or the inflection point where you said, oh, we're like, this is it. Like, there is no going back. We're in this. It's working.
I think once we were poor for a few years, we were just like, all right, we're doing this. All right, no, I think the tipping point was working with tech companies, because I don't think I would have been happy just doing coffee shop logos and law firm websites and things like that. While we still do that work, and I get to work with some cool law firms, which is awesome. It's just not as interesting. I get to work with super cool new ideas that are actually changing the world, and I think that's really where the tipping point was. I mean, back in college, we also didn't need, like, neither of us have kids, and that makes a big difference.
Sure.
We don't have mortgages, things like that, and so when you're right out of college, to me it's like the time to do it.
Yeah. It is low risk.
Low risk, exactly.
Yeah, this will probably pop up like multiple times on the podcast, but honestly, it just keeps coming back to, you can make up for lost income, but you can't make up for lost time.
Absolutely.
So, you said half jokingly, but also probably very serious, like after being poor for a couple years, or realizing that you could get a bigger paycheck somewhere, but saying you're in relative control.
Yeah, I mean, I also get to work with clients that I believe in. Like, we say no. We've said no to plenty of people if I think there's ego, if I don't think they're fundable, really. And, if they're working on something that to me is politically not in line with what I think, like, we just say no. And I have the power to do that. And I think if you work at
because it's your company.
Right. Yeah, I think when you work for, some corporations, you might be unhappy sometimes. We're still unhappy sometimes. Sometimes we have a couple months we're working on some projects that we're just like, oh my gosh, I'm tired of this, But I think everyone gets that. But at the end of the day, I choose what I work on. So yeah.
No, I mean, that makes sense. And every time you say yes, you're making a little bit of a bet, right, on how the project will play out. But you have more insight into it, and you have a little bit more control over.
Yeah, and we have months where we struggle, and we have months when we do great, and it's just, that's one of the things that sucks about it. But you know that you're in control of getting work.
Yeah.
Like, if the economy is a little bit, and I actually had a friend who started a design agency. It's older, so she's 10 years older, and one of the things she said to me was, you're always in control of your own career. So you just have to work harder on finding more clients, but at least you're in control of that. If the economy's not doing great, advertising does tend to be one of the things, and design work tends to be one of the things that people skip out on. So I like that you can control.
Yeah, control meaning like, sometimes you don't have to work as hard to get clients when things are booming.
Right.
And when things aren't booming, you could level out your business a little bit, but you have to turn up the outreach and engagement.
And we have months when work is low, and so I just focus on marketing, redoing our website.
Yeah.
Like, there's little things that you can do, but, we get to work on it, so.
That's kind of interesting, when things slow down, being able to focus more on your business and evolving sort of not just a look, but thinking about your business and investing time in what's next.
We're probably on like pivot number 15.
Pivot number 15. So you're basically walking in circles.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You talked a little bit about what gets you energized. I think, working with startups, working with new ideas. Can you talk a little bit more, though, being a founder, being, at least a little bit in control of the work that you do? What gets you excited about that, and what drives you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my co-founder will definitely say he loves products, because we don't get to do that as much. And every time there's a product, he's like, oh, I want this project. I'm like, all right. But I love working on things that are like, I mean, the founders are always passionate because they're obviously giving up, that golden handcuff to do this. But I love working with med tech companies. I love working with deep energy companies, because they are seriously changing the world.
Yeah.
And when you get to work on something that's like making chemo better for kids, or helping asthma, like helping cure asthma, you get to work on these really cool things that, I mean, that's an actual thing that's going to have a massive effect on the world. I like, that's the type of stuff that when I get to work on it, I'm excited, and I get to say, check out this awesome client I'm working on, and tell my investor network, hey, if you want to invest in something cool, like, check these guys out. So
that's awesome. What's a challenge that you experienced? It can be recent or when you were getting started, but being in that founder headspace, what's a challenge that you've experienced and had to navigate?
I mean, we still are, like, we're still trying to figure out how we want to restructure our company, because like I said, our clients have raised over $200 million. We're not seeing 20 million of that, right?
Yeah.
So there's things like that. When we first started out, we were so naive. We did projects without contracts. I mean, we didn't take the deposit first. We'd finish the project, get no payment.
Yeah.
There's all these like really foolish things that I look back on, but at the same time, I think it was the best way to learn life lessons. We've done business with some people that I don't think I would necessarily say yes to again, and I now know red flags, and I think that was a big thing. But really, like, restructuring our company and saying, hey, we can't just keep doing design work. Like, that's just not going to be scalable. That's not a model that works. So we really want to differentiate ourselves from most design shops, because there's some design shops that do amazing work and they scale and they're constantly hiring. That didn't necessarily work for us, and I think even if it did, it wouldn't have made us happy, because I think you can burn out on creativity. Totally. Like, if you just do design work for hours a day, it's art on demand, right? So.
And it sounds like you like the strategy. Yeah,
I love it. I rewrite people's decks and like ask them a bunch of questions, kind of like you are, about their business. Yeah. We pretty much just sit down for 4 to 8 hour sessions on multiple days, and we just super dive into their company. So it's like I have all this cursory knowledge of all these random things. Like, I can tell you how chemotherapy works in like very systematic ways. I have all these like random things, but I like it. Yeah.
That's really cool. I really like this idea of like always learning and constantly learn. And in my work in coaching, I'm learning all the time with clients, just like you're explaining, and it's basically baked into my work.
Yeah.
Like, there's an element of expertise that I develop, but it's more around navigating conversations rather than the content of conversations.
Right.
So being in different conversations with different content buckets, I'm learning a lot, which I love. And that's actually one of the reasons why I started the podcast, is like, I just want to keep talking to people and learn.
Absolutely. It's cool. It's cool to work with different, different personalities, but also just different industries. And, you know.
And you also, there's more and more intersectionality with tech and software, hardware, different industries coming together. Back to this Tim Ferriss comment, he interviewed Steve Case.
Yeah.
Like, that was amazing. Listening to Steve Case talk about the third wave of technology, and I'm just sitting there like, my mind is just like,
right.
Thankfully, there's like a mind-blown emoji now in iOS when there wasn't like 6 weeks ago. But I think that listening across different verticals really opens up what you can think about and where you can see what's coming. Is there anything keeping you up at night with your work?
All the time. I mean, like, sometimes, or if we have a bad month, I mean, everyone has that as a founder, right? Like, you've got to pay your contractors and employees and everything first. So you kind of have to suck it up sometimes. There's times when we don't do well. Or sometimes if I'm just working on a project, I just can't figure out what is going on. It's something that's just so complicated, and I'm like, I have a deadline. I know they're fundraising like in 2 weeks. I need to figure out how I'm gonna do it. Things like that. I mean, I'm sure my late nights are pretty much the same as most people.
Is there anything you do to navigate it, or you?
I think sleep helps. Also, taking a break from it. Sometimes I'll find myself just doing a ton of research on an industry just to figure out what's going on. Just stepping away. My husband and I just went to the mountains and unintentionally, undigitized ourselves.
Yes.
So, and actually it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, he works with United States Digital Service, and their Slack is always going, and it's crazy. And so it was nice to just have super slow internet that it would just drive you crazy. So we just turned off our phones.
Yeah. It would drive you crazy if you have an expectation of speed.
Exactly.
Which is most millennials or people that grew up with technology.
It was 1.5 megabytes. So
that used to be like lightning.
I know, right?
I mean, 1.5 used to be like a rocket ship.
So, I mean, it was frustrating because I would sit and reply to emails or delete emails out of my inbox just to keep it like maintained, and it would just pop back up. But anyway, going back to the topic, yes, undigitizing yourself sometimes works wonders.
Moving to a slightly different section around advice, what's one of the better pieces of advice you've received as a founder?
That's interesting. I've actually gotten a lot of awesome advice. Like I said, starting out young, people are really willing to kind of... I think one of the things we've moved to recently is really taking on bigger projects and being more involved with our clients. And so that means fewer clients, and that means turning away people. But honestly, it's made a big difference. We're really able to spend more dedicated time with companies that are paying us a little bit more and building a longer term relationship. And that was definitely something a lot of people told us we should do, and we just didn't listen because we were like, oh, it's cool, we'll just take this one like small thing and small thing. But it adds up, and the admin hours for a small project don't differentiate from a big project.
Yeah. So, and sometimes the chasing is, you're chasing more for smaller things.
Right.
When it's the equal amount of chasing, but for something much larger.
And I think that was, we probably should have listened to our our elders on that a while ago, but lesson learned.
What's one thing you know now you wish you had known at the beginning?
Have a contract and deposit with every project, even if you've worked with a client before.
I think that's great.
Yeah. I mean, even if you worked with a client before. So I think setting the scope of a project at the onset is, you need to do that. You need to get all of the content and have a very clear map out of what you're supposed to be doing. And, it's just like an architect. You don't just ask an architect to build a house, which is one of the analogies we tell clients when they're like, well, why do you need this information? And I'm like, well, if you tell an architect to build you a house and you just say 3 bedrooms, what do you want those 3 bedrooms to look like? Do you want 2 bathrooms? Do you want 3 bathrooms? There's all these little things that you've got to tell, and yeah, definitely do that.
Yeah, I have some friends that are in the creative space and amazing artists, but really, really living up to that sort of stereotype of artists. Like their heads are kind of in the clouds.
Yeah.
Incredibly creative. But yeah, you need to get money up front. Not all of it, but you need whatever the agreement is. There needs to be some sort of breakdown of when payment comes, and because you don't want to invest all that time and have to haggle or find some, track someone down.
Yeah, and even when you do work with family and friends, it's just important, and I think we've been fortunate enough where family and friends have never actually screwed us over. But I think it's something that you should just always do, and it should be a practice, don't start the project. Sometimes we have clients who will pay a deposit, but they haven't signed the agreement, and it's just because they, haven't had a chance to actually be in their inbox and print the PDF or whatever, but you still just got to do that. So now we say, like, all right, if you want to start this project, I know you've paid and I know your word's good, but we still just need the agreement because it lays out the scope.
Yeah.
So if an investor deck starts out as 15 slides and it turns into 25, at least you have that contract there saying, okay, well, you've added on like X number of slides and we've stated that.
Yeah, yeah.
And you just want to have that, in writing. I wish I knew that. I probably would have gotten like thousands of dollars back had I done that back in the day.
There is an element, though, of what you learn and how things happened.
Absolutely,
right? Like,
yeah.
It's all made you and your company what it is right now.
Totally.
But there are some lessons that we'd like to learn a little faster.
Yeah.
This is kind of the same, but some people react differently. What's one piece of advice you'd give yourself knowing what you know now?
I think when I was young, I was more scared to network with people and like actually just show up to events. And I think if I had done that a little bit earlier on, not that, I don't know, I think I would have done it more earlier on. I was just kind of, it's a bit of that imposter syndrome. I still get that. I get asked to speak on panels, and for pretty much the week before the panel, I drive my husband and Will crazy. Like, I'm at the office, and then I go home like, oh my God, I don't know if I should do this. Like, but I think if I had more confidence when I was younger, I would have showed up to more networking events and things like that. And I got better at it, definitely. And it helps to have a co-founder because then you guys can go together. Yeah. But I would do that more.
Who's a founder you admire and why?
Okay, well, I'm really into female founders, honestly. Like, I just think it's freaking awesome that
Love
some of them, they're just... So, I would say... Sheryl Sandberg, come on. I know that's really cliche, but I just honestly, I love her. I love her stage presence. Yeah. I love everything she has to do. I'm also a huge fan of Ruth Bader Ginsburg when she talks about work-life balance. She's not necessarily a founder, but she's very self-made.
Sure.
And her advice on things like marriage, like I'm a newlywed and, my husband and I both work, and I'm very fortunate to have a husband who doesn't expect me to stay at home. And he really respects my career. And listening to things like work-life balance and how you can still be a mother, how you can still be a wife, and how you can still have an amazing career. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a badass.
Yeah, she's pretty amazing.
She's not necessarily a founder, but I think she's very self-made, so.
Yeah, I think that there's elements of entrepreneurship and being a founder, and there's elements that are a mindset.
Right.
And do you carry that mindset?
Absolutely.
What's the next big milestone that you're focused on? What's the next big milestone you're focused on?
We do want to restructure our company to take equity because there's been some clients. Really what our goal is, that we always said was long term, but we've been around for a while now, so we need to just do it. Yeah. we want to start taking equity in companies because we want to be able to give that money back to companies we super, super believe in. There's been a handful of companies that I'm just like, oh my gosh, yeah, you guys you're going to kill it. You're changing the world. Like, there's always a good cause there. And I wish I had some money to give you, but, we're not set up that way. Yeah. So that's really the next big milestone, is just restructuring our company to have that opportunity. Like, we're never going to just take equity, because even law firms in San Francisco don't do that.
Sure.
It would be cash plus equity, and that way we can take a little bit less cash, but having that involvement, skin in the game with our clients is really something we want to do. Nice. And really show them, but we would never be a VC firm that's just taking outside stuff. We really just want to kind of invest it back in the clients that we're already working with.
Yeah. Well, this has been really good. I really appreciate you coming down and chatting with me. It's always important that people that listen are able to find you. What's a great place for someone to follow along in your work, learn a little bit from you? You got Twitter, websites?
Yeah, you can check out aleberrycreative.com. We keep our blog mostly updated, but we do. When we're doing events around town or I'm speaking at things, sometimes I give out free Aleberry advice at talks, so you can come listen.
Awesome. And are you on social?
Yeah, we've got a Twitter, Aleberry group. I've got a personal Twitter, Gira, Desai, but it's mostly puppies. So if you want to look at what dog rates is rating right now, my Twitter's the one to follow.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate having you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Founder's Mind. On the next full episode, I have Katie McCabe, the owner of Katie McCabe Photography. Listen in next week to learn how Katie turned her passion into a business. To make sure you don't miss any awesome wisdom from guests of The Founder's Mind, be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, and follow along on social at The Founder's Mind. You can also find more information about guests, their book recommendations, and other insights on thefoundersmind.com. I look forward to sharing future episodes with you all, and don't forget, rating and reviewing The Founder's Mind means a lot, and it's greatly appreciated. Until next time, take care.
Going through all of this insanity and try to bring new ideas, make them a reality. Illuminate in the thoughts, make it a priority to implement what you learn. What you get is what you be. In a world full of noise, hard to find that clarity to try to lead subtly, never full of vanity, and try to change something small or try to change humanity. Power forward through the dark. Founder's mind is what you see. Founder's mind is what you see. Founder's mind is what you see.